So real quick, I want to state that I feel like these might border from being called conspiracy theories to close to being true in all but name. I made the first one the most lighthearted. The last two I think are much darker. So with that said, let's get started. The dead internet theory is the idea that the internet died between 2016 and 2017 and is now almost entirely populated by bots, AI-generated slop, and algorithms, all designed to influence your buying habits and opinions on whatever it is that you're searching or watching. Now, if this wasn't true 10 years ago, I'd venture to say that this is on the fast track to becoming true real quick. Let's say you're watching cute cat videos, as you do. You look down in the comments and see that it's loaded with people saying that you shouldn't even own a cat. Cats are meant to be free, and you're a piece of trash for even thinking that you deserve a tuxedo cat that cuddles you, that attacks your feet at night while you're trying to sleep. Does this come from personal experience? Yeah, so chances are that these comments are bots. Now, who would want to have them say such heinous things? PETA, probably. What I'm getting at is that the dead internet theory has some of its roots based on the idea that big corporations have the ability to make 1 million different bot accounts and have them say whatever they want. Yes, this existed in 2016, but those were easily noticed as bots, like copy and paste shit. But now with the AI boom in 2023, and AI only getting smarter by what seems like every other week, it's getting damn near impossible to tell the difference anymore from an actual person and a bot. Someone that you might argue with on any social media about if the song Hey Yeah by The Outkast was ever any good, that person might have never existed at all. And apparently, as of 2025, over 50% of global internet traffic is generated by non-human automated sources, aka the bots. So does that technically make this theory true today? Maybe. Alright, next one. I'll tell you right now that this is one I almost definitely believe. A little backstory. Amelia Earhart was a pilot who became famous worldwide for being the first female to fly solo across the Atlantic Ocean in 1932. She was also a heavy advocate for women's rights. And what I love about Amelia Earhart is that she saw Charles Lindbergh fly across the Atlantic, and she thought to herself, I can do that too. A go-getter, especially in a time where a lot of people expected women to work a sewing machine or be a housewife. But back to the theory. Amelia decided that she wanted to circumnavigate the world. In 1937, her and a man named Fred Noonan, who was her navigator, started this flight from Oakland, California, and completed 22,000 miles. She gets to New Guinea and takes flight again on July 2nd to begin flying over the Pacific Ocean. Later that morning, she was never heard from again. So most people believe that she crashed in the Pacific and died right then and there. However, this theory states that the plane crashed near an island that's now called, sorry for getting this wrong, Niku Maroro. I botched that. And that she was able to survive at least for a little while on the island. Amelia's plane was transmitting radio signals that could be heard by radio stations in Hawaii and Wake Island. And Hawaii and Wake Island took directional readings on these signals, and when mapped, several of these intersected near Nikimururururu, the island. In 1940, a British colonial officer found 13 human bones on the island, alongside a size 9 woman's shoe, which is the size Amelia wore, some branded freckled ointment cream, a brand that Amelia used, and a box for a sextant, which is a navigation tool. A photograph that was taken in October of 1937 shows an unidentified object protruding from the water on the island's reef. Later, a digital analysis of the photo suggests that it could be the landing gear of a Lockheed Electra, the type of plane that Earhart flew. Now at first, the bones that were found were documented and were concluded to be from a male. However, in 2018, the measurements for the bones were re-looked at, and they were found to be a 99% match to Amelia's height and build. And the worst part of this theory is that if it is true, that would mean that Amelia would have had to have dealt with giant coconut crabs. And if you haven't seen one of these things, they are fucking huge. They can grow up to over 3 feet in length, and they're no joke either. These crabs have the strength to crack open coconuts and have been known to eat pretty much anything they can get a hold of, from plants to chickens to cats. They're seriously like the Michael Myers of the animal world. They're slow, but they will get you sooner or later. They can climb trees also. So what I'm saying is, I think Amelia Earhart might have survived for a time on the island, but became weak and eventually succumbed to the crabs. I got this one locked in. I think this is what happened to her. But alright, next one. There have been tons of studies on this one. It's the idea that leaded gasoline, which was mainly used as fuel in vehicles for decades, has had a massive impact on human behavior in the worst ways. So lead is a neurotoxin that'll mess with your prefrontal cortex. That's the part of your brain that gives you impulse control, emotional regulation, and long-term planning. Leaded gas was introduced in Dayton, Ohio in 1923. It was used as a simple and cheap fix to engine knocking, but it wasn't until after World War II that it was used all over the world, pumping literal tons of lead particles in the air. So kids who were born in the 40s, 50s were breathing in this stuff like crazy, in a time when their brain is developing, potentially rewiring their brains toward increased aggression and lower empathy. The decline of the use of leaded gas began in the mid-70s, but you want to guess why that is? And I'll give you a hint. It had nothing to do with health concerns. It was because lead clogs up catalytic converters. And believe it or not, leaded gas wasn't banned in the US until 1996. And it wasn't stopped being used worldwide until 2021, with Algeria being the last country to finally stop using it. So on average, people tend to commit crime the most in their late teens and early 20s. Children that were exposed to lead in the 1950s reached their criminal prime in the 1970s, right about the time where the number of serial killers and violent crime peaked. In every country that used leaded gasoline, the violent crime rate peaked and plummeted in direct proportion to the use and eventual ban of the additive. And that's usually with about a 20-year delay. It wasn't until the early 1990s that the number of active serial killers started to actually go down, and is still declining to this day. Early 1990s, 20 years after leaded gas was starting to be phased out in the US. Coincidence? Don't think so. Now, we have to keep in mind that there are, of course, other factors. DNA testing wasn't a thing until 1986, so this would give a serial killer a higher chance of not getting caught and finding more victims. The 70s had hitchhiking culture, which, by the way, blows my mind that anyone brave enough would go in a car with a stranger. And just off base, let me ask anybody who was actually alive in that era, weren't you guys ever taught stranger danger? So, is it possible that some of the most notorious serial killers have had their minds seriously affected by all that lead in the air from leaded gasoline? I say probably, yeah. And would they have become serial killers if leaded gas never existed? Ooh, see, now that one's a toughie. There's so much more to each of these stories that I've given. It would take an hours-long video to go through everything. But that's all I had to say about these 3 theories, and I hope you like this video.